Far to the west, beyond the snow-capped fjords of occupied Norway, the German surface fleet stirred from its long Arctic slumber. In the frozen harbor of Altenfjord, floodlights glinted across the armor plating of two heavy cruisers, Admiral Hipper and Lutzow. Their hulls, dark against the icy dawn, steamed faintly as engines came to life for the first time in weeks. The crews, wrapped in thick wool coats and leather gloves, moved with silent efficiency. They knew this was not another drill. Admiral Oscar Cummins, commander of the operation, stood on the bridge of Hipper, studying the gray horizon. The weather report promised chaos, low visibility, heavy snow squalls, temperatures plunging below 30 degrees Celsius. But that suited the Germans fine. In the blizzard's confusion, radar and reconnaissance could be unreliable. Surprise would be their greatest weapon. Operation Regenbogen, approved by the Oberkommando der Marine, OKM, aimed to strike a psychological and strategic blow. Hitler had grown increasingly frustrated with his navy's inertia. The once proud Kriegsmarine surface fleet had achieved little since the sinking of Bismarck in 1941. Retter, the Grand Admiral, hoped that by annihilating another Arctic convoy, he could restore confidence in surface warfare and silence critics who argued for an all-submarine strategy. Cummins's orders were clear but rigid. Locate convoy JW51B, destroy its escorts, and sink as many merchantmen as possible, but avoid unnecessary risks. The cautious phrasing would later prove disastrous. The German task force was formidable on paper. Heavy cruiser Admiral Hipper, flagship, armed with 8 8-inch guns. Heavy cruiser Lutzow, a so-called pocket battleship, with 6 11-inch guns. 6 destroyers, Friedrich Eckelt, Richard Beetzen, Theodor Riedel, Z-29, Z-30, and Z-31. Together, they outgunned the entire British escort by nearly 10-to-1 in firepower. Against Sherbrooke's modest destroyers, their shells could tear, steal apart in seconds. But superiority on paper meant little in the Arctic. Comets reviewed intelligence reports. According to Luftwaffe reconnaissance, JW51B was escorted by light destroyers and trawlers. No cruisers detected. In Berlin, that was interpreted as weakness. A simple operation, one staff officer wrote. A winter training, exercise with live ammunition. None suspected that the British had improved convoy coordination through radar networks and encrypted communications. At dawn on December 30th, Comets called his captains to the briefing room aboard Hipper. The men gathered around a chart illuminated by a single red bulb. Their breath fogged the convoy is here, Comets said, tapping a pencil on the Barents Sea near latitude 73 north. Our destroyer group will approach from the south. Hipper will engage from the west. Lutzow will move north to cut off their retreat. We strike at first light. There was a tense pause. Captain Hans Hennig of Lutzow frowned. Admiral, in this weather, we may not see the convoy at all. Radio communication will be impossible. Comets nodded slightly. We adapt. Remember, surprise is everything. They expect submarines, not surface ships. He dismissed the men. Engines rumbled as the ships eased. From harbor, their bows slicing through floating ice. The sea swallowed them into darkness. Meanwhile, on the British side, intelligence from Bletchley Park had picked up fragments of German radio chatter days earlier, hinting at increased naval activity in northern Norway. But the convoy's commander, Sherbrooke, was not informed of specifics. He could only guess that trouble was coming. Back aboard Hipper, morale was high but uneasy. Many sailors hadn't seen real combat in months. The North Atlantic campaign had become the domain of U-boats, not cruisers. These men were relics of an earlier age of naval warfare, proud, disciplined, and eager to prove their worth. As night fell, the temperature plummeted. Ice formed rapidly on gun turrets and railings. The destroyers struggled to maintain formation in the storm. Comets, peering into the snow-filled void, could see nothing beyond a few ship lengths. Every few minutes, the aurora flickered, faintly ghostly green ribbons twisting through the clouds. It was beautiful and terrifying, like a silent omen. At 22 o'clock hours, the first radar contacts appeared. Weak signals moving slowly northeast. Comets' officers leaned over the displays, arguing quietly. Was it the convoy or just drifting ice? The readings came and went, distorted by the storm. He decided to press on. By midnight, the task force had split. Hipper and 3 destroyers steered north. Lutzow with the remaining 3 went east, hoping to encircle the British. But coordination was already breaking down. Radio interference rendered communication nearly useless. Were relayed by signal lamps and guesswork, a dangerous gamble in near-zero visibility. Inside Hipper's plotting room, officers huddled over charts while frost crept down the walls. "We are ahead of schedule," said Kummetz's operations officer. "We should intercept them by dawn." Kummetz allowed himself a thin smile. "Then, we will give the Führer his New Year's gift." Unseen beyond the blizzard, Sherbrooke's convoy steamed directly into their path. The British crews could sense something, a shift in the wind, a faint echo of engines carried across the waves. No one could see farther than 100 meters, but instinct told them they were no longer alone. The Germans believed victory was inevitable. They had the heavier guns, better armor, and numerical superiority. What they didn't realize was that the Arctic itself would conspire against them, and that their enemy, though small, carried a weapon invisible to the naked eye, radar. The stage was set. As 1942 drew its final breath, both fleets advanced blindly toward each other through the white abyss, each unaware that by sunrise, history would change course.